My name is Vivian Lawson. I'm 36 years old, and for a long time I kept telling myself that what I was feeling was just stress, fatigue, a phase, anything except the truth. I almost didn't write this, not because I was afraid of being judged, but because I already knew the comments before they were even typed. You chose him. Marriage is hard. You should have seen the signs. Maybe I did. Or maybe I ignored them because admitting the truth meant admitting how alone I'd become in a life that was supposed to be shared. I'm not here to be validated. I'm here because I need to say it out loud. And maybe, just maybe, someone else will read this and realize they're not crazy either. I was married to Colton Reed, 35. We'd been together for over a decade, married for 10 years. We met in college at a loud, cramped house party where the music was too loud and the drinks were watered down. He stood out anyway, witty, observant, the kind of guy who could make people laugh without putting anyone down. I fell for him fast. We dated through graduation, moved in together, struggled through our early careers, then got married. We weren't perfect, but we communicated, or at least I thought we did. We fought, we cooled off, we talked it through, we made plans, we built something. Or so I believed. I work as a senior project manager at a construction firm. It's not glamorous, but it's demanding, high stakes, and stable. I manage crews, deadlines, budgets. I'm good at it, and it pays well enough that we never had to panic about bills. When our second child was born, Colton stayed home. It was a mutual decision. Daycare costs were insane, and he said he wanted to be present while the kids were little. I respected that, trusted it. We have 2 kids, Harrison, 7, and Waverly, 4. I thought we were partners. That illusion didn't shatter all at once. It cracked slowly, quietly, until one day I realized I'd been standing alone in the rubble for months. My days started early. I woke up first, got the kids dressed, packed lunches, made breakfast, logged into work from my home office with a headset already pressing into my ears. Meetings stacked back to back, emails, site issues, subcontractor calls. Half the time I barely stood up until noon. Colton, he slept in. He didn't cook, did not clean. Waverly went to preschool 3 days a week, and somehow the house still looked like a tornado passed through it by mid-morning. And before anyone says it, yes, parenting is exhausting. I know because I was doing most of it. This wasn't burnout. This was withdrawal. He stopped trying. He started outsourcing life. One morning, scrolling through his phone like he was checking the weather, he said, "Oh, by the way, a cleaner's coming Fridays now." I blinked. Who? Maribel, he said casually. She'll handle deep cleaning. It's essential for my mental health. We hadn't talked about it. He hadn't asked. When I brought that up, he sighed long and dramatic, like I was a burden. "Vivian, I've been carrying the emotional labor for this family for years. Years." That phrase, emotional labor, started coming up a lot. So did healing. So did prioritizing myself. Anytime I questioned spending, effort, or decisions, I was suddenly unsupportive, dismissive, part of the problem. I wasn't angry that he wanted help. I was angry that he wanted control without contribution. The cleaner would come, and Colton wouldn't lift a finger. He'd sit on the couch scrolling while someone else scrubbed around him. Waverly eventually went to preschool full-time, and Colton used that time to recharge, listening to podcasts about masculine alignment, finding his higher purpose, becoming his authentic self. Meanwhile, I was managing a household, a career, and 2 kids, while being told I was stifling him. I cooked half the meals, folded laundry, did bath time, handled yard work, fixed things when they broke. I did it quietly, without keeping score, until I realized I was the only one still playing the game. He started making comments. Small ones, just sharp enough. I wish I'd waited for someone who appreciated my ambition. I never imagined being stuck in this life so young. He said them like jokes, but his tone said otherwise, like I was the weight tied to his ankle. I ignored it, told myself he was in a phase that we'd talk it out. Then one afternoon during back-to-back calls, I asked politely if he could load the dishwasher. He didn't even look up. "I'm not your mom," he said, smug like he'd won. I froze. I wasn't asking him to raise me. I wasn't asking for supervision. I was asking him to participate in the house he lived in. But suddenly, any expectation from me was framed as dependency, as entitlement. That line became his shield. I'm not your mom. He said it again a few days later, then again, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't about chores. It wasn't about exhaustion. It was about respect, and I didn't have it anymore. That night, lying awake while he slept soundly beside me, I realized something that made my chest tighten. I wasn't married. I was funding someone else's exit strategy, and I was the only one pretending everything was fine. Something had to change, and I already knew I couldn't unsee it now. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to punish Colton. That's the part people get wrong when they hear what happened next. I didn't slam doors. I didn't threaten divorce. I didn't give ultimatums or dramatic speeches. I just stopped being the invisible glue holding everything together. For years, I'd done things automatically, not because I was asked, because I knew if I didn't, no one else would. Light bulb flickering? I fixed it. Door hinge squeaking? Me. Drawer off its track? Me. Leaky faucet, jam disposal, broken cabinet latch? Handled. All the quiet maintenance that keeps a house from falling apart. I stopped doing that. At first, it was subtle. The hallway light burned out. I noticed it every time I walked past, muscle memory itching to grab a ladder. I didn't. I walked by in the dark. The ceiling fan in the guest room started clicking. I heard it through the vent while I was on a call. Didn't move. The bathroom drawer slid crooked and finally came off the track completely. That one didn't take long. Colton walked into the kitchen one night, holding the drawer in both hands like it had personally insulted him. "Can you fix this?" he asked. "No," I said. He blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah," I replied calmly. "I'm not your dad." The silence was immediate and thick. He stared at me like I'd said something insane. "You're really not going to help?" His voice climbed sharp with disbelief. "Help?" I repeated. "Colton, I work full-time. I take care of the kids. I manage this house. That's not helping. That's surviving." He scoffed. "Wow, this is petty." I finally looked at him. Is it, or is this just the first time I've stopped doing everything without being asked? He set the drawer down hard on the counter. "You used to do this stuff without making it a big deal." "Yeah," I said, "back when we were a team." He stormed out of the room muttering under his breath, but I saw his face before he turned away. Shock. Not anger. Shock. Because he wasn't used to hearing no. For years, I'd handled everything. Every flat tire, every broken shelf, every time the printer jammed or the trash disposal made that grinding noise. He never had to think about it, and stupidly, neither did I. It was never about the drawer. It was about the pattern and the fact that I finally broke it. I wasn't trying to punish him. I wanted him to notice, to realize how much I'd been caring without complaint, to step up. Instead, he doubled down. The more I pulled back, the more resentful he became. He started talking about how he needed his own identity, how he didn't recognize himself anymore, how he felt trapped. And I understood that feeling more than he realized. But what bothered me was the timing. That clarity only showed up once someone else was doing all the hard parts of life for him. I wasn't asking him to go back to work. I wasn't demanding grand gestures. I just wanted balance. But balance threatened his comfort. Then things started getting strange. One afternoon, I got a routine email from our bank, a fraud alert. Nothing urgent, just a notification that there had been multiple transfers to a new savings account, an account I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed it was nothing. Maybe he was organizing finances. Maybe it was something we'd talked about and I'd forgotten. So I asked casually, light tone, no accusations. "Hey," I said while we were both in the kitchen, "did you move some money into a new savings account?" He didn't look up from cutting strawberries. "Yeah," he said, "just setting something up for security, just in case." "In case of what?" He shrugged. "Nothing, just smart to have backup money that's not all in one place. That's what my podcast said." I let it go in the moment, but it didn't sit right. That night, after the kids were asleep, I checked the account. It wasn't one transfer, it was 4 small amounts. $60 here, $85 there, $150 another day, all within 2 weeks, all going to the same external account, an account with only his name on it. I stared at the screen longer than I want to admit. I'm not paranoid, but I'm not stupid either, so I started watching, quietly. Every morning, I opened the banking app. I exported statements into PDFs, highlighted transfers, dates, notes, timestamps. He labeled them things like grocery backup or rainy day. Funny, because our grocery store doesn't deposit money into a private savings account under Colton Reed. I noticed other things too. His spending was increasing. A yoga mat, $130. Organic facial cleansers, $65. Some online transformational course, $299. All charged to the joint account. Meanwhile, I was meal prepping to save money, bringing coffee from home, skipping lunch some days when work was insane. We were living in two different financial realities. What really made something in me harden was a $400 transfer. The same day, he told me we needed to skip takeout because money was tight. I'd agreed. Of course I had. Mortgage, 2 kids, inflation chewing through everything. That night, after I put the kids to bed, I sat alone in the living room and realized something that made my stomach drop. He wasn't just disengaged, he was preparing. The final confirmation came when I tried to reconnect. I suggested a date night, offered to handle the babysitter, pick a place, make it easy. He looked at me and said, "Why, so we can pretend we're not just roommates for a night?" That wasn't bitterness, that was detachment, like he'd already left. From that moment on, I documented everything. Screenshots, bank alerts, receipts, emails. I took photos of the house on days I was working 12-hour shifts. Dishes piled up, toys everywhere, laundry untouched. Not to be petty, but because I could already hear the narrative forming in his head. Vivian doesn't help. Vivian works too much. Vivian isn't present. I kept logs, school pickups, doctor appointments, texts with teachers, preschool emails with my name on them. If this turned into a custody fight, I wasn't walking in blind. Every day felt like walking through a house full of tripwires. One minute he was fake sweet, asking what I wanted for dinner like he planned to cook. The next, muttering, "I can't wait to be appreciated one day," like he was rehearsing a breakup speech. Then, one afternoon, I heard him on the phone. I wasn't eavesdropping, I was grabbing a sweater from the hallway closet. The bedroom door was cracked. "I can't keep doing this," he said, annoyed. "It's like I'm stuck in this domestic dead end while she plays the martyr." I froze. "I haven't told her yet," he continued. "I'm waiting until everything's lined up. I'm not stupid." He laughed. He wasn't talking to a lawyer, he was talking to a friend. I backed away slowly and closed the closet door. He had no idea I'd heard a word, but I did. And in that moment, something inside me went quiet. If he was planning to leave, he wasn't taking my kids, my savings, or my stability with him. I wasn't going to beg, I was going to move first. After that phone call, I stopped hoping for clarity, because clarity had already been handed to me. I just hadn't wanted to accept it. Colton wasn't confused. He wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't finding himself. He was planning. And once I saw that, something in me shifted from hurt to focus. I didn't confront him, not yet. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't warn him. I got quiet. The next morning, after dropping Harrison off at school and Waverly at preschool, I sat in my car for a full 5 minutes before driving anywhere, just breathing, letting the shock drain out of my system. Then I called a lawyer. I told myself it was just for information, just to understand my options, just to be prepared. But deep down, I already knew this marriage was over. I just needed to make sure I didn't walk away empty-handed while he walked away rehearsed. The lawyer was older, calm, no nonsense, the kind of man who didn't waste words or sugarcoat reality. After listening to everything, the money transfers, the withdrawal, the phone call, he said something that stuck with me. "If you think your spouse is planning an exit," he said, "you should act like they already have." That sentence landed hard, because he was right. Colton had already left emotionally. He was just waiting for the moment that benefited him most. So I started moving pieces quietly. I opened a new checking account in my name only, redirected part of my paycheck there. Not all of it, just enough to create a safety net without raising alarms. I didn't drain the joint account. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just adjusted the flow. I stopped using the joint debit card, switched to my personal account or cash. If he noticed, he didn't say anything. If he did, he probably assumed I was being frugal or controlling. Either way, he didn't question it. That told me everything. I doubled down on documentation. Every charge tied to his name, every receipt from the cleaner, every self-development purchase that never went beyond the inbox. I photographed the house regularly, not staged, not exaggerated, just real. I kept logs: who picked up the kids, who handled appointments, who communicated with teachers. I saved emails, screenshots, calendar invites. I wasn't doing this out of spite. I was doing it because I knew how this would go. I'd already heard the story he was going to tell, that I worked too much, that I wasn't emotionally available, that he carried the invisible burden. I wasn't letting fiction replace facts. That weekend, I told him I had to work late on Saturday, which wasn't a lie. I did have deadlines. He rolled his eyes. You know, some parents actually spend time with their kids. I didn't respond, because while he was busy throwing passive-aggressive jabs, I was in the garage quietly packing essentials, important documents, personal items, a few changes of clothes, things I'd need if I had to leave quickly. I didn't load boxes. I didn't make it obvious. I slipped things into my trunk a little at a time. Every day felt like walking through a minefield. One moment he was oddly pleasant, asking if I wanted anything from the store, complimenting dinner I'd cooked. The next, muttering under his breath about being trapped. It was like he was practicing for an audience. Then it happened. A Wednesday night, quiet, ordinary. I was working on my laptop in the living room when he walked in and sat on the edge of the couch like he'd rehearsed it in the mirror. "We need to talk," he said. I muted my screen and turned to him. "I've been thinking," he began, "and I don't think this is working anymore." I didn't interrupt. He spoke calmly, detached, like he was announcing a schedule change. "I'm not blaming you," he added, which would have been funny if it weren't so predictable. "But I've grown. I need more than this marriage. I feel like I've been carrying a version of myself that doesn't fit anymore." I waited for the anger, the grief, the instinct to argue. It didn't come. Instead, I felt relief. "Okay," I said. He blinked. "That's it?" "If that's what you want," I replied evenly, "I'm not going to fight you." The silence that followed was thick. He stared at me like I'd failed some test, like I was supposed to cry, beg, plead, promise change. But I'd already grieved this marriage weeks ago when he stopped respecting me, when he started hiding money, when he started planning his exit while still sleeping in my bed. He went to bed early that night. No good night, no questions. I think he believed he'd won, that he'd taken control of the narrative. He had no idea how far ahead I was. By the next morning, the paperwork was already moving. The timeline wasn't his anymore. It was mine. The next morning felt surreal. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic fallout. Colton was still in his pajamas, sipping coffee like it was just another weekday. Harrison was already at school. Waverly was at preschool. The house was quiet in that eerie, suspended way, like it didn't yet know what was about to happen. At exactly 9:07 a.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't move. I already knew who it was. Colton frowned, set his mug down, and opened the door. "Colton Reed?" the man asked. "Yes." "You've been served." The folder changed hands. The man turned and walked away like he'd just dropped off groceries. Colton stood there frozen, papers dangling from his fingers. "What is this?" he demanded, walking back into the living room. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Divorce papers, custody filings, financial disclosures, asset freeze. His face went through 3 emotions in under 10 seconds. Confusion, anger, disbelief. "You're divorcing me?" he snapped. "You said this wasn't working. I thought we were taking space." "We are. I said calmly, just legally. You had this ready? His voice cracked, not with sadness, but shock. You planned this? I planned for reality, I replied. You were planning an exit. I just finished the paperwork. He started pacing. This is unbelievable. You're punishing me for wanting space. I'm protecting myself, I said. You want space? Take it. But you're not taking the kids, the money, or control of the story. He flipped through the pages and stopped at the asset freeze. His jaw tightened. You pulled money 2 weeks ago, he said. You changed the locks. Yes, I answered. The keys you have won't work anymore, and I signed a lease. I'm moving out today. That finally landed. What about the kids? He shot back like it was a trap. I've filed for joint legal and primary physical custody, I said. They'll stay with me during the week. You'll have weekends on rotation, assuming you want them. Your lawyer can discuss details with mine. He sank onto the couch, papers spread across his lap like they were written in another language. I looked around the house, the one I'd been holding together while he withdrew piece by piece. I'll pick up the kids on Monday, I said. They already have a room set up. That's when his eyes snapped up. You already have a place? Yes. You planned all of this? No, I corrected him. You did. I just stopped pretending. I left after that. I didn't wait for him to respond. I grabbed my bag, walked out, and got into my car. He didn't chase me, didn't yell, didn't say a word. For the first time in months, he had nothing snarky to say. The drive to my new place felt unreal, like my brain was lagging behind my body. But when I unlocked the door and stepped into a clean, quiet apartment with a made bed and framed photos of my kids already on the wall, something in my chest loosened. Peace. Not joy, not relief, peace. The legal process moved fast after that. Colton tried to flip the story. His sister texted me a long paragraph about how I'd blindsided him, how he was trying to work things out, and I'd abandoned the marriage. I waited. Then I sent receipts. Bank statements, screenshots, preschool emails, calendar logs, documentation he never imagined I'd kept. I ended the message with, "Thought you'd want both sides." Silence. Within days, the narrative collapsed. His mom stopped liking his posts, friends stopped commenting, people quietly backed away. Then Colton started texting me, not about the kids, about us. He said he was confused, that he thought we were just taking a break, that I hadn't given him a chance to fix things. Fix what? You don't fix a house you set on fire and then blame someone else for smelling smoke. I kept my replies short, polite, focused on the kids, nothing more. When he realized I wouldn't engage, he tried another angle, calling my mother. She called me afterward, confused but calm. I told her everything. Her response? Good, she said. I was wondering how long you were going to let him treat you like that. That confirmation hit harder than I expected. I hadn't imagined it. Other people had seen it too. About a month later, life started to feel quiet. Not easy, not perfect, but stable. The kids relaxed. Bedtimes were peaceful. No tension, no whispered arguments behind closed doors. And me? I slept. I breathed. I stopped bracing myself every time I walked through the door. One Saturday afternoon, Colton showed up unannounced, banged on the door like nothing had changed. I think we need to talk, he said, arms crossed, sunglasses on. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. This separation has been clarifying, he said. I don't think we should throw away 10 years because you overreacted. I didn't respond. He kept going. I know I said some harsh things, but I was protecting my energy. This new version of me deserves more, but I think we could rebuild if you're willing to do the work. That's when I realized something. He still thought he had leverage. I met his eyes. There's nothing to rebuild. You were done months ago. I just caught up. He scoffed. So that's it? You're giving up? No, I said quietly. You gave up. You just expected me to keep carrying you while you figured yourself out. He shook his head. You're going to regret this. I smiled. I don't think I will. I watched him walk back to his car, still convinced he was right. still deflecting, still entitled. He didn't come back because he missed me. He came back because he lost his safety net. What he didn't know was that I'd started seeing someone. Nothing dramatic, a man I met through mutual friends, steady, present, no games, no lectures about identity or alignment. He asks how my day was and listens. It feels strange not being on defense all the time. Good strange. The kids are thriving. I'm steady. I don't second-guess myself anymore. I don't wait for the next guilt trip. I don't wonder what mood I'm walking into. I don't apologize for existing. He had every chance to meet me halfway. Instead, he took until I stopped offering. And when I finally said enough, he called it quitting. But I didn't quit. I woke up.